Homes where the fire doesn't burn you down. The wind screamed through the jagged stone spires of Hearthbone Valley, a banshee howl laced with the acrid tang of Pyra, those microscopic embers floating in Xythera's blood-red air. Below, a river of molten lava churned, spitting geysers, of fire that painted the cliffs in flickering orange. Thane Korran didn't have time to admire the hellscape. His boots pounded the swaying rope bridge, each step a gamble as the frayed cords groaned under his weight. His left arm, a sleek biomechanical marvel of whirring gears and glowing conduits, clutched a plasma pistol, its barrel hissing with every shot he fired backward. Behind him, the predators closed in. Sinew-Steel Beasts, they called them. Hulking, relics of the Galactic Union's abandoned tech, now twisted by Pyra into living nightmares. Their metal claws shredded the crimson rock, their roars a guttural symphony of grinding steel and primal rage. Thane's pulse hammered in his ears, drowning out the wind. He'd faced worse odds, pirates in the asteroid belts, Union kill squads in the void. But this was a damn circus of death, and he was the main act. "Move, you bastard," he growled to himself, sweat stinging his eyes. His black hair, singed at the ends from a lifetime too close to fire, whipped across his face, those green eyes, sharp as a blade and twice as cold, locked on the bridge's end, a jagged ledge, 50 meters ahead, 50 meters too far. A shadow loomed above. On the cliff's edge stood a figure wreathed in red, a woman, her hair a cascade of molten crimson, her skin shimmering like polished steel under the fractured sky. She raised a hand, and a whip of flame lashed out from her palm, crackling with Pyra's raw power. "Jump or die," she shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos like a plasma blade. Thane bared his teeth, a snarl curling his lips. "I don't jump for anyone," he barked. But the words barely left his mouth before a sinew-steel lunged. Its claw swiped, missing his head by inches, and severed a rope. The bridge bucked violently, tilting sideways. Thane stumbled, his pistol skittering from his grip into the lever below. The beast roared, a sound like a starship engine tearing itself apart, and charged again. Son of a... Thane didn't finish. The bridge's last supports snapped, and gravity took over. He twisted midair, years of pilot instinct kicking in, and flung himself toward the cliff. The woman's fire whip snapped out, coiling around his waist with a searing grip. Pain flared, but he didn't care. She yanked hard, and he crashed onto the ledge, rolling to a stop in a cloud of red dust. For a moment, there was silence. Just the distant rumble of the lava and the fading shrieks of the sinew-steel plummeting into the inferno. Thane lay there, chest heaving, his biomechanical arms sparking from the strain. Then he looked up. She towered over him, her eyes glowing faintly with Pyra's light, her presence radiating authority and something else, something dangerous. "Who the hell are you?" he rasped, pushing himself to his knees. His voice was rough, edged with the grit of a man who'd seen too many wars and not enough peace. "Kaelith," she said, her tone sharp as the wind, "Lord of the Emberheart tribe, and you're trespassing on my world, stranger." She crossed her arms, the fire whip retracting into her hand like a living thing. "Those beasts don't chase just anyone. What did you do?" Thane snorted, dusting off his patched Union jacket. "Pissed off the wrong people, apparently." He stood, all 6 feet of him, coiled with defiance, and met her gaze. "Name's Thane Korran, ex-Union pilot, and I'm not here for your damn world. I'm here for what's left of mine." Kaelith tilted her head, studying him like a predator sizing up prey. "The Union's trash doesn't just wash up on Xythera by accident. You've got purpose in those eyes. Trouble, too." Before Thane could retort, a low hum cut through the air. A sleek drone hovered into view, its lens glinting like a cyclops eye. A voice crackled from it, cold, mechanical, familiar. "Thane," it said, "you can't run forever. I'll refine the Pyra, even if I have to burn this planet to ash." Thane's jaw tightened. Dren Voss, the bastard who torched his life. He glared at the drone, then at Kaelith. "Looks like trouble found me first." Kaelith's lips curved into a faint, dangerous smile. "Then you'd better hope you're worth saving Thane Korran. Because on Xythera, fire doesn't forgive." The dust settled around Thane Korran like a crimson shroud, clinging to his battered Union jacket and the grooves of his biomechanical arm. He stood on the cliff's edge, chest still heaving from the chase, the heat of the lava river below, baking the soles of his boots. The drone's hum faded into the wind, taking Dren Voss's threat with it, for now. Thane's green eyes, sharp and unyielding, flicked to the woman who'd just saved his ass. Kaelith, she'd called herself, Lord of the Emberheart tribe. Whatever that meant, it came with a hell of a presence. She stood a few paces away, her silhouette framed against Xythera's fractured sky, a jagged mosaic of red cracks pulsing, like veins across the heavens. Her hair flowed like liquid fire, catching the light of the Pyra particles that danced in the air, tiny embers that made every breath feel like inhaling a spark. Her skin shimmered faintly, metallic yet alive, and those eyes, glowing with a faint inner flame, pinned him with a mix of curiosity and suspicion. She was a force, no doubt about it, and Thane didn't trust forces he couldn't figure out. "You gonna stand there gawking, or you got something useful to say?" he asked, his voice a low growl roughed up by years of shouting over starship engines. He flexed his left hand, the gears whirring softly as he tested the damage from the fall. A few sparks popped from the joints, nothing he couldn't fix later. Kaelith's lips twitched, not quite a smile. "I just hauled you out of a fire pit most men don't crawl back from. You're welcome, by the way." She stepped closer, her boots crunching on the brittle stone, and the air around her seemed to ripple with heat. "But you're no ordinary drifter. That arm, that gun, Union tech. Old Union tech. What's a relic like you doing on my planet?" Thane wiped a streak of sweat from his brow, his singed black hair falling back into place. "Your planet. Huh? Last I checked, Xythera's a galactic dumping ground. Union walked away 50 years ago after they cracked the sky open." He nodded toward the glowing fractures overhead. "I'm here for what they left behind. A ship, my ship, or what's left of it." Kaelith's eyes narrowed. "The Union's trash doesn't interest me, but those Sinew-Steel Beasts do. They don't hunt for sport. They're drawn to something, or someone." She tilted her head, studying him like he was a puzzle with missing pieces. "What did you do to wake them up?" Thane snorted a dry, bitter sound. "Exist, maybe. Been doing that pretty well lately. Pissing off the wrong people's my specialty." He didn't mention Dren. Not yet. The bastard's voice still echoed in his skull, a ghost from a past he'd spent a decade trying to outrun. Instead, he glanced at the valley, the lava casting an eerie glow across the jagged cliffs. This place, Pyra in the air, machines gone feral, a sky that looks like it's bleeding. What the hell happened here? Kaelith's expression hardened, but there was a flicker of something else. Pride, maybe. Xythera happened. The Union came for the Pyra, thought they could harness it. They drilled too deep, broke the core, and the sky shattered, left us to rot. But we didn't rot, we burned brighter. She raised a hand, and a small flame flickered to life in her palm, swirling like a living thing. Pyra's in our blood, now. Its power, its life, and you're standing in its heart. Thane watched the flame, his jaw tightening. Power, sure, but he'd seen what power like that cost. His arm was proof enough. Half of him was steel because of men like Dren who played God with things they couldn't control. "Sounds like a curse to me," he muttered. "Burn too bright, you burn out." Kaelith extinguished the flame with a flick of her wrist. "Maybe. But curses don't save fools from falling bridges." She turned, gesturing toward a path carved into the cliff. "Come with me, Thane Korran. You've got answers I want, and trouble I need to understand." Thane hesitated, glancing back at the valley. Somewhere out there was his ship's wreckage and his ticket to vengeance. But the woman in front of him was a wild card, and on a planet like this, wild cards could mean survival. "Fine," he said, stepping after her. "But if this goes south, I'm not jumping again." From a distant ridge, a shimmer of light flickered, a cloaked figure watching through a scope. Jara's silver hair glinted faintly as she lowered the device, her lips curling into a cold smile. "Keep talking, pilot," she whispered to herself. "You're leading me right to it." The path down the cliff was a jagged scar etched into Xythera's red rock, winding toward the shadowed maw of Ignisar, the underground city Kaelith called home. Thane Korran trailed her, his boots crunching against brittle stone, his biomechanical arm clicking faintly with each step. The air grew thicker with Pyra, those damn embers prickling his lungs like static. He didn't trust this place, didn't trust her, but he'd survived to worse odds with less to go on. For now, she was his lifeline. Kaelith moved ahead, her fiery hair swaying like a beacon, her silence heavy with unspoken questions. Thane's eyes flicked to the horizon, where the fractured sky pulsed faintly, a reminder of the Union's betrayal. He was about to ask her something, anything to break the tension, when a metallic clatter echoed behind them. He spun, hand instinctively reaching for the plasma pistol that wasn't there anymore, lost to the lava. A Sinew-Steel Beast, smaller than the ones on the bridge, no bigger than a hound, lurched from the shadows of a boulder. Its steel-plated body gleamed, its eyes glowing with Pyra's red light. Thane braced himself, but the thing didn't charge. It cocked its head, whirring softly, then stepped closer, almost curious. Without thinking, he extended his left arm, the gears humming. "Back off," he muttered, his voice low and steady. To his shock, the beast obeyed. It froze, then sat, its metal tail scraping the ground. Kaelith turned, her glowing eyes widening. "What the hell did you just do?" she demanded, stepping beside him. "Those things don't listen to anyone." Thane frowned, lowering his arm. "Beats me. Maybe it likes the sound of Union tech." He tapped his mechanical hand against his thigh, and the beast mimicked the rhythm, tapping its claw. A flicker of pride sparked in his chest. Humans built things to last, even if they turned feral. Before Kaelith could respond, a sharp whine cut through the air. A drone swooped down from the cliffs, its single lens glinting like a predator's eye. Thane's gut twisted. He knew that design. Union surplus, modern for recon. A voice crackled from it, cold and deliberate, laced with a venom Thane hadn't heard in years. "Thane," it said, "you can't run forever. I'll refine the Pyra, even if I have to burn this planet to ash." Dren Voss, the name hit Thane like a slug round. His fists clenched, the gears in his arm grinding louder. That bastard, his old squad mate, the trader who'd lit the fuse on Daybreak Fracture and left Thane's family as ash in the fallout. "Keep dreaming, Dren," he spat, glaring at the drone. "I'll bury you first." The drone hovered a moment longer, then zipped away, vanishing into the crimson haze. Kaelith watched it go, then turned to Thane, her expression unreadable. "Friend of yours?" "Old debt," Thane growled, his voice tight. "One I'm here to settle." Kaelith nodded slowly, her gaze lingering on the Sinew-Steel, still sitting obediently. "Then you've brought war to my doorstep, Thane Korran." Let's see if you're worth the fight. The descent into Ignisar felt like stepping into the belly of a beast. The cliff path gave way to a tunnel of polished red stone, its walls slick and reflective, streaked with veins of Pyra that glowed like embers trapped in glass. Thane Korran followed Kaelith, his boots echoing in the cavernous silence, his biomechanical arm humming faintly with each swing. The air thickened, heavy with the electric tang of Pyra. Those microscopic flecks that made his skin prickle and his throat burn. He didn't like it, didn't trust it, but he'd come too far to turn back now. Kaelith led him to a chamber deep within the rock, its ceiling lost in shadow, its floor dominated by a jagged outcrop of crystal. The thing pulsed with a deep red light. Pyra swirling inside it like a storm caught in amber. It was massive, taller than Thane, wider than a Union dropship, and it hummed with a low, resonant throb that rattled his bones. "What the hell is that?" he asked, his voice rough, edged with the wariness of a man who'd seen too many traps. "The heart of Ignisar," Kaelith said, her tone reverent, almost soft. She stepped closer, her fiery hair catching the crystal's glow. "Pure Pyra, forged when the Union broke the planet. It's what keeps us alive, and what's killing us." Her glowing eyes flicked to him. "Touch it. I need to know what you are." Thane snorted. "I'm no lab rat." But her stare didn't waver, and something in it, challenge, maybe desperation, made him move. He reached out with his flesh hand, not the steel one, and the instant his fingers brushed the surface, the world exploded. Light seared his vision, red and blinding. His mind lurched, and suddenly he wasn't in the chamber anymore. He was on a windswept plateau, under Xythera's fractured sky, watching a boy with Kaelith's eyes laugh as he chased a glowing insect. Then pain. A Sinew-Steel Beast tore through a village, its claws raking the boy apart. Kaelith's scream echoed, raw and broken, and Thane felt it in his chest like it was his own. The vision shifted, his own memories now. Daybreak, fracture, his sister's voice calling his name as the Union rig detonated, fire swallowing her whole. Dren's cold laugh as he walked away. Thane staggered back, gasping, the connection snapping. He was back in the chamber, the crystal's light dimming. Kaelith clutched her head, her breath ragged. What did you do?" she rasped, staring at him like he'd grown a second head. "Me?" Thane snapped, his heart pounding. "You're the one who—" He stopped, realizing he'd heard her thoughts. He saw Torrin. How? Her voice, clear as day, inside his skull. He glared at her. "Get out of my head." "I'm not in it," she shot back, but her own shock mirrored his. She pressed a hand to her temple. "The heart. It linked us. I saw your sister, your pain." Her voice softened, just for a moment before hardening again. "You're no stranger to loss." Thane clenched his fists, the gears in his arm grinding. "Don't pretend you know me." But he couldn't shake it. Her grief, his rage, tangled together like wires in a busted console. He stepped back, putting distance between them, when a roar shook the chamber. A Sinew-Steel Beast, bigger than the last, its steel hide scarred and glowing, burst through a side tunnel, its eyes locked on them. "Move!" Kaelith shouted, a flame bursting from her hand. Hearthmaster-level Pyra lashing out in a blazing. "Bok!" The beast dodged, lunging at Thane. Instinct took over. He raised his biomechanical arm, willing it to hold. The creature froze mid-air, trembling, then crashed to the ground, subdued by his sheer grit. Kaelith stared, flames fading. "You commanded it again." "How?" Thane lowered his arm, breathing hard. "Hell if I know. But if we're stuck in each other's heads, you'd better start talking fast." because that thing's not the only trouble coming. From the shadows, the crystal pulsed once more, as if it knew something they didn't. And somewhere beyond the chamber's walls, the faint hum of a cloaked figure's tech grew louder. The chamber's air hung heavy, thick with the aftershock of the crystal's pulse, and the faint metallic tang of the Sinew-Steel Beasts sprawled at Thane Korran's feet. Its glowing eyes dimmed, subdued by whatever trick his stubborn will had. Cold off, he flexed his biomechanical arm, the gears grinding softly, and shot a glance at Kaelith. She stood rigid, her fiery hair still catching the heart of Ignisar's red glow, her chest rising and falling like she'd just run a marathon. That mind link, whatever the hell it was, had rattled them both, and Thane didn't like it one bit. "You gonna explain that little head trip, or do I have to guess?" he asked, his voice a low growl, rough as the asteroid belts he'd once navigated. He wiped a bead of sweat from his brow, his singed black hair falling into his eyes, green and sharp, like a predator sizing up a threat. Kaelith didn't answer right away. She stared at the crystal, her glowing eyes flickering with something Thane couldn't read. Grief, maybe, or memory. Then she spoke, her tone quieter than before. "The heart doesn't just link us. It shows us. I saw your sister. You saw my brother. It's deeper than I thought." She paused, then added, 10 meters. That's the range. I can feel you right now, your anger, your doubt. Thane's jaw tightened. Great. At least I didn't ask for. But even as he said it, a flicker of something brushed his mind. Not his own. A sound, faint at first, like wind chimes in a storm. Then it grew. Voices, dozens of them, rising in a haunting melody under a fractured sky. He blinked, and the chamber vanished. He stood on a plateau of red stone, the air alive with Pyra's glow. Xytherans, men, women, children, gathered in a circle, their skin shimmering like Kaelith's, their voices weaving a song that thrummed in his chest. Torches burned, their flames dancing to the rhythm, and above, the sky's cracks pulsed as if in sync. A woman, Kaelith, younger, her hair shorter, knelt before an elder, accepting a necklace of fire cactus bone. "You are Emberheart," the elder said, "guardian of the flame." Pride swelled in her, and Thane felt it too, sharp and warm, until a Sinew-Steel's roar shattered the scene, blood staining the stone. He snapped back to the chamber, staggering slightly. Kaelith was watching him, her expression a mix of shock and recognition. "You saw it," she said, "not a question. The Night of Ashes, my naming day, before the beasts took everything." Thane rubbed his temple, the song still echoing faintly. "Yeah, felt it too. Your people. They don't give up, do they?" He didn't mean it as a compliment, but it came out that way. That resilience, it reminded him of Earth's old colonies, scrapping by on nothing but grit. He hated how it tugged at him, how it made him question the revenge burning in his gut. Kaelith stepped closer, her voice steadying. "We can't. Pyra's our curse and our strength. The Union left us to die, but we turned their poison into fire." She gestured to the crystal. "This linked us for a reason, Thane. You're not just a drifter, you're part of this now." "Part of what?" he snapped, but the words lacked bite. That song, her pride, her loss, it gnawed at him, cracking the walls he'd built around. His past. He turned away, staring at the Sinew-Steel. "I came for a ship, not a cause." Kaelith's gaze hardened. "Then why does that beast obey you? Why does the heart show me your pain?" She didn't wait for an answer, brushing past him toward the tunnel. "Come on. Ignisar's waiting, and so are your answers." Thane lingered, his eyes on the crystal. A glint caught his attention, a shard of Union alloy, half buried in the dirt near the wall. He knelt, brushing it free. A piece of a cloaking rig. Someone had been here. His mind flashed to Dren. But a colder instinct whispered another name. He pocketed it and followed Kaelith, the weight of her world settling on his shoulders whether he liked it or not. The tunnel opened into Ignisar like a wound splitting the earth, revealing a city carved from Xythera's crimson heart. Thane Korran stepped out beside Kaelith, his boots hitting a walkway of polished stone that gleamed under the glow of Pyra, veins snaking through the walls. Above, a vast dome of living steel arched, Sinew-Steel tech, warped by time and Pyra into a breathing, pulsing canopy. Its ribs flexed faintly, exhaling a low hum that vibrated in Thane's chest. Lanterns hung from chains, their flames flickering without fuel, casting shadows across a sprawl of tiers and spires below. The air buzzed with Pyra's electric bite, sharper here, stinging his lungs with every breath. "Welcome to Ignisar," Kaelith said, her voice steady but laced with pride. She gestured to the city, her fire-red hair catching the light. Last bastion of the Emberheart, built from the bones of Union greed. Thane's green eyes narrowed, scanning the scene. Looks more like a tomb than a fortress. He flexed, his biomechanical arm, the gears clicking as he adjusted to the heat radiating from the stone. "How do you live with this crap in the air?" Kaelith smirked, a flicker of amusement breaking her stern mask. "You breathe it or you choke. Your choice." She led him down a ramp toward a training yard carved into the lower tier, where Xytherans sparred with bursts of Pyra, flames snapping from their hands in controlled arcs. "Pyra's not just air here, it's us. You'll learn, or you'll burn." "Pass," Thane muttered, but Kaelith grabbed his wrist, his flesh one, and pulled him to a circle of scorched stone. "Hey, what?" Before he could finish, she shoved him forward, her glowing eyes daring him to balk. "Prove you're not dead weight," she said. "Show me what a Union grunt can do with Pyra. Beginner level, 5 meters, spark it up." Thane glared, the mind link buzzing faintly, with her impatience. He didn't want this. Didn't want her world creeping into his. But the challenge lit a fire under him. He raised his hand, focusing on the heat prickling his skin. A spark flared, weak at first, then steadied into a small flame hovering above his palm. It flickered, barely reaching 3 meters before his arm trembled, a dull burn creeping up his veins. "Damn it," he hissed, shaking it out. His skin prickled with faint scorch marks. Pyra's first bite. Kaelith crossed her arms. "Machine thinking won't cut it. You're too stiff, logic's choking the flow." She stepped behind him, her voice dropping. "Feel it, not just control it." "Easy for you to say," he shot back, but he tried again. This time, he let the heat guide him, and the flame stretched. 5 meters, steady. A grin tugged at his lips, pure human stubbornness kicking in. Kaelith nodded, almost impressed, when a clatter interrupted them. The Sinew-Steel Beast from the chamber, the small one, trotted into the yard, its metal tail wagging like a dog's. Thane instinctively raised his arm, and it sat, whirring softly. The Xytherans around them froze, murmurs rippling through the crowd. Kaelith's eyes widened. "You're full of surprises, Thane Korran." "Yeah, well, surprises keep me alive," he said, lowering his arm. He tapped the beast's head, and it mimicked the motion, a crude mimicry of Union programming warped by Pyra. "Guess it likes me." Kaelith's gaze shifted past him to a shadowed alcove. "Let's hope it's enough," she said, her tone darkening, "because something's coming. And it's not friendly." Thane followed her look, catching a faint shimmer. Union tech, cloaked. His hand tightened into a fist. Trouble was already here. The training yard of Ignisar buzzed with the crackle of Pyra, flames snapping between Xytheran hands like whips in a storm. Thane Korran stood at the edge of the scorched circle, the red stone beneath his boots radiating heat that soaked through his worn Union jacket. His biomechanical arm whirred faintly, a steady rhythm against the chaos, while his green eyes tracked Kaelith as she paced before him. Her fiery hair swayed with each step, her metallic skin glinting under the dome's eerie glow. The air stung with Pyra's electric bite, and Thane could feel it, crawling under his skin, begging to be unleashed. "You're still holding back," Kaelith said, her voice sharp, cutting through the murmurs of the gathered Emberheart warriors. She stopped, hands on hips, her glowing eyes boring into him. "Beginner tricks won't cut it anymore. You've got the spark, now make it a blaze, Hearthmaster level. 50 meters. Do it," Thane smirked, a flicker of defiance curling his lips. "Bossy, aren't you?" But the mind link hummed faintly between them, her impatience seeping into his skull like static. He'd felt her pride, her pain. Hell, he'd even started to get why she fought so hard for this dustball of a planet. Didn't mean he had to like it. He raised his flesh hand, focusing on the heat prickling his palm. A flame sparked, then grew, stretching 10 meters before flickering out. His arm shook, a dull ache spreading up his veins, fresh scorch marks blooming on his skin. Pyra's price. Kaelith snorted, pathetic. "You're fighting it like it's a machine to program. Pyra's alive, feel it or it'll eat you alive." She stepped into the circle, grabbing a slab of red stone from a pile and slamming it down in front of him. "Burn through this, now." Thane gritted his teeth. "Fine. Your funeral." He squared his shoulders, drawing on the heat again, not just in his hand, but in his gut, his anger, his stubborn refusal to fold. The flame roared to life this time, a searing jet that hit the stone 20 meters out. It flared brighter, stretching 30, 40, 50 meters, until the slab cracked, molten edges glowing. Pain lanced up his arm, sharp and hot, but he held it, sweat beading on his brow. The flame died as he exhaled, leaving a trail of charred rock and a crowd of stunned Xytherans. Kaelith crossed her arms, a grudging nod, her only praise. "Better. But you're still thinking like a grunt. Straight lines, brute force. Watch this." She raised her hand, and a whip of Pyra lashed out, curling around another stone 50 meters away. With a flick, it shattered into dust, the flame dancing like it had a mind of its own. Precision, not just power. Thane wiped his face, the scorch marks on his arm glowing faintly. "Precision's my game, lady. Watch this." He focused, again, this time picturing the old Union targeting grids he'd used as a pilot. Coordinates, angles, control. The flame reignited, smaller but tighter, slicing a clean circle through a third stone 40 meters out. It wasn't Kaelith's wild elegance, but it was damn effective. He grinned, pure human ingenuity shining through. "How's that for machine thinking?" Kaelith's eyes flickered with surprise, then narrowed. "Not bad, for an outsider." She stepped closer, her voice dropping. "But those Sinew-Steel Beasts, they're not stone. You want to use them, not just fight them." Thane glanced at the small sinew-steels still trailing him like a loyal mutt. "They're Union tech gone rogue. I get tech. You're the one who thinks they're cursed." "They are," she snapped, the mind link flaring with a flash of her brother's death. "Built to mine Pyra, then turned on us when the Union broke the core. You control them. You're playing with fire you don't understand." "Maybe," Thane said, tapping the beast's head. It mimicked him, claw tapping back. "But fire's all I've got left." Kaelith's gaze lingered, a storm brewing behind it. "Let's hope you don't burn us all down." The training yard of Ignisar simmered under the dome's red glow, the air thick with Pyra's electric hum, and the faint char of Thane's last flame. He stood in the scorched circle, chest heaving, the fresh scorch marks on his arm pulsing, faintly as he caught his breath. Kaelith lingered nearby, her fiery hair a stark contrast to the stone, her glowing eyes locked on him with a mix of grudging respect and wariness. The small Sinew-Steel Beast sat at Thane's feet, its metal tail tapping rhythmically, a silent testament to his strange pull over the Union's twisted relics. A low whine sliced through the murmur of the watching Emberheart warriors, sharp and mechanical. Thane's head snapped up as a drone dropped from the shadows of the dome, its lens glinting like a predator's eye. Before he could react, a figure stepped into the yard, tall, weathered, his face a map of scars under a mop of grey hair. One eye was a cold mechanical lens, the other a piercing blue. Dren Voss. He gripped a staff tipped with a dull, black crystal. Pyra, Thane realized, a Union toy to snuff out flames. The mind link flared with Kaelith's alarm, but Thane's own rage drowned it out. Thane, Dren said, his voice a gravelly rasp, cold as the void. You're wasting time with these savages. Hand over the data, or I'll take it from your corpse. Thane's fists clenched, his biomechanical arms sparking. You torched my life, Dren. I owe you nothing but a grave. He stepped forward, Pyra igniting in his hand, Hearthmaster flames curling up his arm. 50 meters of reach, ready to burn. Dren raised the staff, and the flames sputtered, dying in a hiss of smoke. Fool. Pyra's a plague, I'm here to cure it. My daughter died because of it, and I'll refine it clean, even if Xythera burns. His mechanical eye whirred, focusing on Thane. You're in my way. Before Thane could retort, a shimmer rippled the air. Jara emerged from her cloak, silver hair glinting, her Union armor sleek and lethal. Her voice was ice, cutting through the tension. Enough posturing. The data's mine, pilot. Pyra's a weapon. My family's blood paid for that truth, and the Union will have it. She drew a plasma blade, its edge humming blue, and glanced at Dren. You're a relic, Voss. Step aside. Dren's scarred face twisted. You'd weaponize a curse? You're as mad as they were. He swung the Pyranol staff at her, but Jara dodged, her blade slashing a sparking arc that forced him back. The drone buzzed overhead, recording it. Ball. Kaelith surged forward, flames roaring from her hands. Hearthmaster power aimed at both. This is my city, she snarled, the mind link flooding Thane with her fury. Take your fight elsewhere. Thane didn't wait. He raised his arm, willing the Sinew-Steel to move. It lunged, tackling Dren, mid-swing, pinning him to the stone. Jara spun, her blade grazing Thane's jacket as he ducked. Stay out of this, she hissed, but he grabbed her wrist with his steel hand, twisting until the blade clattered free. Enough, he roared, shoving her back. The yard fell silent. Dren pinned, Jara glaring, Kaelith's flame simmering. Thane's voice dropped, cold and final. I'm not your pawn. Either of you. Dren chuckled, a bitter sound as the Sinew-Steel held him down. You'll see, Thane. This world's a pyre waiting to ignite. Jara straightened, her eyes promising retribution. Keep the data, for now. I'll be back. She vanished into her cloak, leaving only echoes. Kaelith extinguished her flames, staring at Thane. You just made enemies you can't outrun. Thane met her gaze, unflinching. Wouldn't be the first time. The training yard of Ignisar settled into an uneasy hush, the echoes of Jara's plasma blade and Dren's bitter words fading into the red stone walls. Thane Korran stood at the circle's edge, his biomechanical arms sparking faintly from the scuffle, His green eyes locked on the spot where Jara had vanished. The small Sinew-Steel Beast sat beside him, its metal frame whirring softly. A loyal shadow born of Union tech had his own stubborn will. Kaelith lingered nearby, her flames extinguished, but the mind link buzzed between them, her wariness sharp, her resolve a steady hum in his skull. Dren Voss struggled under the Sinew-Steel's weight, his pyranol staff pinned uselessly beneath him. His scarred face twisted with defiance, his mechanical eye whirring as it focused on Thane. "You think you've won?" he rasped, voice thick with venom. "This planet's a ticking bomb. Pyra's poison will take it all. I'm the Curer, Thane. You're just the fool delaying it." The Emberheart warriors dragged him away, his protest swallowed by the crowd, but his words lingered like smoke. Thane's jaw clenched, his flesh hand flexing. Dren's betrayal, daybreak, fracture, the rig exploding, his sister's scream, burned in his memory, a fire that had fueled him for a decade. He'd come to Xythera for vengeance, for the data buried in his ship's wreckage to expose the Union's sins. But now, with Kaelith's world pressing in, that fire flickered. He turned, striding toward a shadowed alcove where he'd spotted something earlier, a glint of metal half buried in the dirt. He knelt, brushing away the dust with his steel hand. A Union data core, cracked but intact, its surface etched with coordinates, his ship, his proof, his ticket to bury Dren and the Union in one shot. His heart pounded, the old rage surging, until the mind link flared again. Kaelith's voice wasn't in his ears this time, but in his head, soft and urgent. "Thane, look," he didn't want to, but he couldn't stop it. The chamber vanished, and he was back on that Xytheran plateau from her memory. The night of ashes. But now it shifted. Ignisar's streets, children playing under the dome, warriors training, an old man carving bone into tools. Then screams, Sinew-Steel Beasts tearing through homes, Pyra flaring wild, blood on the stone. Kaelith knelt in the wreckage, her voice breaking as she begged the sky, "Don't take them too." Her desperation clawed at him, raw and real, a mirror to his own loss. Thane snapped back, gasping, the data core cold in his hand. Kaelith stood beside him now, her glowing eyes searching his face. "You saw it," she said quietly. "My people. What's left of them. If Dren's right, if he refines Pyra and it goes wrong, they're gone. All of them." "Stop it," Thane snapped, standing fast, the core gripped tight. "I'm not your savior. I came for him, for what he took from me." His voice cracked, the weight of his sister's name unspoken, but heavy. He turned toward the yard's edge where a lava vent glowed, its heat shimmering the air. One toss, and the data was slag. One toss, and Dren walked free. Kaelith stepped closer, her presence steady through the link. "I'm not asking you to save us. I'm asking you to choose. Revenge won't bring her back, but it might take what I've got left." Thane's hand trembled, the core's edges biting into his palm. He saw it, Dren's smug face as the rig blew, his sister's hand slipping from his. Then Kaelith's plateau, her people, her fight. Two fires, one choice. He growled, a low guttural sound, and hurled the core into the vent. It melted in a flash of sparks, gone forever. Kaelith exhaled, a faint nod, her only response. "You're a fool, Thane Korran." "Yeah," he muttered, staring at the fading glow, his voice rough but firm. "But I'm not running anymore." From the shadows, a cloaked figure, Jara, watched, her silver hair glinting as she turned away. A cold smile on her lips. "Your loss, pilot," she whispered, vanishing into the dark. The depths beneath Ignisar thrummed with a primal roar, a cavernous expanse where Xythera's molten veins bled into the stone. Thane Korran descended the last tunnel alongside Kaelith, his boots crunching on ash-strewn rock, his biomechanical arms sparking faintly from overuse. The air was a furnace, thick with Pyra's electric sting, and ahead loomed Dren Voss's refinery, a grotesque machine of Union steel and Xytheran crystal, pulsing red as it siphoned Pyra from the planet's core. Pipes hissed, venting steam that shimmered under the fractured sky's light, filtering through cracks above. Kaelith's fiery hair whipped in the heat. Her glowing eyes narrowed. "He's draining the heart," she said, her voice tight, the mind link flooding Thane with her dread. "If he refines it all, Xythera collapses." She gripped his arm, her touch searing. "We stop him, now." Thane nodded, his jaw set. "He's mine." The data was gone, his revenge a ghost. But Dren's madness threatened everything. Kaelith, Ignisar, this damn planet he'd started to care about. He raised his hand, Pyra flaring to life. Hearthmaster strength, 50 meters. Of raw flame curling around his fist. "Let's burn this bastard out." They advanced, the refinery's hum growing into a growl. Then Dren stepped from the shadows, his scarred face twisted with grim purpose, his pyranol staff glowing faintly in his grip. His mechanical eye whirred, locking on Thane. "You're too late," he rasped, voice echoing off the walls. "Pyra's poison ends today. I'll save them all, even if they hate me for it." "Save them?" Thane spat, stepping forward, flame roaring brighter. "You killed my family, you son of a bitch. This ends with you." He unleashed the fire, a blazing jet that streaked 50 meters toward Dren, lighting the cavern in a hellish glow. Dren swung his staff, the black crystal flaring. The flame died mid-air, snuffed out in a hiss of smoke, leaving only a faint scorch on the stone. "You never learn," he growled, advancing. "Pyra's a disease, my daughter's proof. I'll rip it out, root and stem." He thrust the staff again, and a shockwave of null energy slammed into Thane, knocking him back. Kaelith moved, her own Pyra igniting. Hearthmaster whips lashing out, curling toward Dren from both sides. "This is my world," she shouted, the mind link pulsing with her fury. Dren dodged one, nullified the other, but she pressed forward, relentless. Thane rolled to his feet, pain spiking up his scorched arm. He didn't have time to curse. Something massive stirred in the cavern's depths. A Sinew-Steel Beast, bigger than any he'd seen, its steel hide scarred and glowing, burst from a tunnel, its roar shaking the walls. Its eyes locked on them all, Pyra raging in its core. Had it charged? "Move!" Thane yelled, shoving Kaelith aside as the beast's claw swiped where she'd stood, shattering stone. He raised his biomechanical arm, willing it to obey like the smaller ones had. "Come on, you junk heap, listen." The beast faltered, trembling mid-lunge, then turned, slamming into Dren instead. The old man stumbled, staff clattering, pinned beneath its weight. "Damn you, Thane!" Dren roared, struggling under the beast. He jammed the pyranol into its side, and it shrieked, thrashing free, its glow dimming. But the distraction gave Thane an opening. He charged, Pyra flaring again. This time close, 10 meters, a concentrated blast aimed at Dren's chest. Dren rolled, the flame grazing his arm, searing flesh and steel alike. He swung the staff wildly, catching Thane's side. Pain exploded, ribs cracking. But Thane gritted his teeth, human grit keeping him upright. He grabbed the staff with his steel hand, twisting hard. "For my sister," he snarled, yanking it free and slamming it into Dren's mechanical eye. Sparks flew, the lens shattering. Dren staggered, clutching his face, blood mixing with oil. "You'll regret this," he gasped, Collapsing against the refinery, the machine groaned, a pipe rupturing, steam hissing as the cavern trembled. Kaelith grabbed Thane's arm, pulling him back. It's not over, the beast's still alive. The Sinew-Steel rose, its roar deafening, Pyra flaring wild in its eyes. The refinery shook harder, cracks spidering up its frame. Thane wiped blood from his lip, staring down Dren, then the beast. Then we finish it, all of it. The cavern beneath Ignisar trembled like a beast in its death throes, the refinery's ruptured pipes spewing Pyra-laced steam into the air. Thane Korran stumbled back from Dren's crumpled form, his ribs screaming with every breath, blood trickling from a gash on his lip. His biomechanical arm sparked wildly, its gears grinding from the fight, but his green eyes burned, focused, unyielding. Kaelith gripped his shoulder, her touch hot through his torn jacket, the mind link surging with her desperation. Above, the fractured sky pulsed through the cavern's cracked ceiling, red veins flaring as if Xythera itself was bleeding out. The Sinew-Steel Beast roared, its massive frame shaking off Dren's pyranol strike. Its steel hide glowed with unchecked Pyra, eyes blazing like twin suns, and it charged, claws raking the stone. Thane shoved Kaelith aside, diving as the beast's swipe shattered a pillar, debris raining down. We've got no time, he shouted, rolling to his feet. That thing's gonna bring this whole place down. Kaelith's voice cut through the chaos, steady despite the strain. Then we heal the sky. Now. She darted to the refinery's core, a towering crystal throbbing with Pyra, and raised her hands. The ritual, it's our only shot, cover me. Her flames erupted, Lord of Flame power igniting, a storm of fire swirling around her as she began to chant, her words ancient, resonant, pulling at the cavern's energy. Thane's mind raced, the link flooding with her intent. Channel Pyra back to the sky, mend the fractures. But the beast wasn't waiting. It lunged, and he raised his steel arm, willing it to obey. Stop, you oversized scrap heap. The Sinew-Steel faltered, trembling mid-air, then crashed sideways, buying seconds. His head throbbed. Human will, against Pyra's chaos, but he held it, sweat stinging his eyes. Kaelith's chant grew louder, her body glowing as Pyra poured from her into the crystal. The air shimmered, heat warping the cavern, but her flames flickered. She was fading. Thane felt it through the link, her strength draining, her life slipping with every pulse. Damn it, Kaelith, hold on, he yelled, turning to the beast. He couldn't fight it and help her. Not like this. Then it hit him. Union logic. Pilot instincts. The Sinew-Steel weren't just beasts. They were machines once, built to channel Pyra. He staggered to a control panel on the refinery, its screens cracked but flickering. His steel fingers danced across it, rewriting old Union code on the fly, rewriting the beast's Pyra flow, turning it into a conduit. "Work, you bastard," he growled, slamming the execute key. The Sinew-Steel convulsed, its glow surging upward, Pyra streaming toward the sky through the cavern's cracks. Kaelith's voice faltered, her knees buckling. Thane caught her, his arm burning where her skin touched his. "Keep going," he urged, the link alive with her pain, and his own resolve. She nodded, leaning into him, and resumed the chant, her flames merging with the beast's stream. The crystal pulsed, a blinding red, and the sky above began to shift, cracks sealing, light softening. A sharp hum cut through, a plasma blade igniting. Jara shimmered into view, her silver hair stark against her Union armor, eyes cold. "Not yet," she hissed, tossing a Pyra-charged grenade at the core. "The Union gets its weapon, or no one does." Thane's heart stopped. "No," he released Kaelith, diving for the grenade. It hit the ground, ticking down. 3 seconds. He grabbed it with his steel hand, the heat searing, and hurled it at the Sinew-Steel. "Take it," he roared, willing the beast to act. It lunged, claws snagging the grenade mid-air, and swallowed it. The explosion ripped through its core, Pyra erupting in a blinding flash. Thane shielded Kaelith as shrapnel flew, the beast collapsing in a heap of molten steel. Jara cursed, her blade slashing at Thane as he stood. He ducked, ribs screaming, and tackled her with his flesh shoulder, driving her back. "You're done," he snarled, pinning her arm until the blade clattered free. She kicked free, vanishing into her cloak, but not before snatching a shard of the core. Data intact. The cavern shuddered, the refinery groaning as Pyra flowed upward, guided by Kaelith's fading ritual and Thane's hack. She slumped against him, her glow dimming, breath shallow. "It's working," she whispered, the link faint but warm. Thane held her, staring at the healing sky through the cracks. "Yeah, we did it." But Jara's escape gnawed at him. Trouble wasn't over. Dren stirred, groaning, and Thane's grip tightened on Kaelith. "Stay with me," he said, voice rough. "We're not done fighting yet." The cavern beneath Ignisar stilled, the refinery's groan fading into a hollow echo as the last of the Pyra surged upward. Thane Korran knelt beside Kaelith, his biomechanical arm, now a mangled wreck of sparking gears, cradling her against his chest, her fiery hair draped across his shoulder, dull without its glow, her metallic skin pale and cool. The mind link flickered, faint but alive, a thread of warmth pulsing between them. Above, through the cavern's cracked ceiling, Xythera's sky shimmered, its fractures sealing into a smooth, crimson dusk, healed by her ritual and his desperate hack. Kaelith's breath hitched, shallow and ragged. "We did it," she murmured, her voice a whisper against the stone. Her glowing eyes dimmed, Pyra drained from her core, the price of wielding Lord of Flame power too long. Thane felt it through the link, her life slipping and his grip tightened, ribs aching from Jara's blow. "Yeah," he said, his voice rough, scraped raw by smoke and fury. "You held the line. Crazy bastard." He forced a grin, but it faltered as her hand brushed his, weak but steady. The Sinew-Steel's molten remains smoked nearby, its sacrifice, his sacrifice, etched in the charred steel scattered across the floor. A groan broke the silence. Dren Voss stirred, slumped against the refinery's wreckage, blood and oil streaking his scarred face. His mechanical eye dangled by wires, sparking faintly, but his human eye locked on Thane, clouded with pain and something softer. Regret, maybe. "You stopped it," he rasped, coughing wetly. "I was wrong. The cure killed more than the curse." He reached out, trembling, then slumped forward, still. Thane stared, his chest tight. Dren, the man who torched his world, was gone. But the victory tasted like ash. No revenge, no closure. Just a dead man's confession and a planet still breathing. He turned back to Kaelith, brushing her hair from her face. "He's done. You're not. Stay with me." Her lips twitched, a ghost of a smile. "Not going anywhere." The link pulsed, weaker now, but it carried a flicker of her. Warmth, not fire. Her Pyra was gone, burned out to save Xythera, and Thane's arm hung useless, its circuits fried by the grenade's heat. They'd paid in blood and steel. A faint hum pricked his ears, Jara's cloak retreating. She'd slipped away with that core shard, a piece of Pyra's secrets in her grasp. Thane's jaw clenched. "She's not done," he muttered, more to himself than Kaelith. The Union would come back. Jara's cold smile promised it. Kaelith's Hand squeezed his, faint but firm. Then, we'll fight. Together. Her eyes fluttered shut, but the link held, a quiet tether in the dark. Thane nodded, staring at the healed sky. Together, he echoed, voice steady despite the ache. They'd won, for now, but the fire wasn't out yet. The first light of Xythera's healed sky filtered through Ignisar's cracked dome, a soft crimson glow that bathed the city in a warmth it hadn't known for decades. Thane Korran stood on a balcony overlooking the lower tiers, his battered Union jacket hanging loose over his shoulders. His left arm, once a marvel of biomechanical steel, dangled uselessly, its gears silent, fried to scrap by the grenade's heat. The ache in his ribs had dulled to a throb, but his green eyes, sharp and restless, traced the streets below. Xytherans moved with cautious hope. Children laughed, warriors repaired homes. The hum of Pyra fainter now, a whisper instead of a roar. Kaelith leaned against the railing beside him, her fiery hair dulled to a deep auburn, her metallic skin no longer shimmering with Pyra's light. She was pale, fragile in a way that clawed at Thane's gut, but alive. The mind link lingered between them, a faint thread, not the blazing connection it had been, but something new. He caught flickers of her, relief, exhaustion, a quiet strength, and she felt him back, his resolve a steady pulse. It's different, she said, her voice soft but steady, gazing at the sky. No fractures, no weight. Thane nodded, his rough voice tempered by the moment. You bought them that. Damn near bought it with your life. He glanced at her, the memory of her fading in the cavern still too fresh. She'd burned out her Pyra, Lord of Flame reduced to nothing, to heal Xythera, and he'd lost his arm, keeping her alive. A fair trade, maybe, but it didn't feel like winning. She smirked faintly, a shadow of her old fire. You didn't exactly sit it out, Thane Korran. That beast, your hack, it's why we're still breathing. Her hand brushed his, and, through the link, a spark flared. Not Pyra, but something shared, a remnant of their bond. We can share it now. Not much, but enough. Thane tested it, willing a tiny flame to flicker in his palm. It sparked, weak but steady, fed by her presence through the link. He shook it out, a wry grin tugging at his lips. Guess I'm stuck with you, huh? The humor faded as he looked down at the Sinew-Steel wrecks scattered below, smaller ones, salvaged from the fight. Those things, Union built them to mine Pyra back when they thought they could control it. Daybreak fracture woke them up, turned them feral. I just talked them down. Kaelith's eyes darkened, the link carrying a flash of her brother's death. They're not tools anymore. They're part of this, part of us. She straightened, her voice firming. You can fix them, though. Make them build instead of break. Thane rubbed his jaw, the stubble rough under his fingers. Maybe. Union tech's my language. Give me a wrench and some time. I'll turn them into plow horses. He tapped the railing with his flesh hand, picturing it sinew-steel hauling stone, forging a future. It wasn't vengeance, wasn't the life he'd chased, but it felt right. Human grit, bending chaos into order. A cheer rose from the streets. Xytherans gathering around a salvaged sinew-steel as it lifted a beam, guided by a warrior mimicking Thane's earlier commands. Kaelith's faint smile returned. They're learning from you already. Yeah, well, don't let it go to their heads, Thane muttered, but pride flickered in his chest. He'd come for a ship, for Dren's blood, and found something else. A fight worth sticking around for. The sky above stretched clear, a new dawn. But Jara's escape gnawed at him. That shard she'd taken, Pyra's secrets, meant the Union wasn't done. Kaelith's hand rested on his arm, the link warm with her quiet faith. "We'll face it when it comes," she said, reading his unease. "Together." Thane met her gaze, his voice low but solid. Together, the city hummed, below alive and fragile, a legacy forged in fire. Hands steel. The sun dipped lower over Hearthbone Valley, its crimson light spilling across the jagged cliffs and the healed sky above. Thane Korran stood on the valley's edge, the wind tugging at his battered Union jacket, his useless biomechanical arm hanging limp at his side. Below, Ignisar buzzed faintly. Sinew-Steel Beasts, reprogrammed by his hand, hold stone alongside Xytherans rebuilding their lives. The air still carried Pyra's faint tang, but it was softer now, a reminder rather than a threat. He rubbed, his jaw, stubble scratching his fingers, and felt the quiet weight of a world he'd never meant to claim. Kaelith stepped beside him, her auburn hair catching the dusk's glow, her presence steady despite the fragility etched into her frame. The mind link hummed between them, a gentle tether, not the firestorm it once was, but a shared warmth, a flicker of Pyra they could still trade. She leaned on the cliff's edge, gazing at the valley. "It's strange," she said, her voice soft but firm. "Seeing it without the fractures. Like waking from a nightmare you didn't know you were in." Thane grunted, his rough tone softened by the moment. "Nightmares I get. Waking up's the hard part." He glanced at her, green eyes tracing the lines of her face. Worn, but unbroken. "You burned yourself out for this. Was it worth it?" Her lips curved, a faint echo of her old fire. "Look down there, kids laughing, homes rising. Yeah, it was worth it." She paused, the link carrying a ripple of her doubt, then her resolve. "But I couldn't have done it alone. You gave me that, Thane. Your stubborn human mess of a fight." He snorted, a dry laugh breaking free. "Mess, huh? Guess that's one way to put it." He shifted, staring at the horizon where his ships, wreckage lay buried, his old life, his old vendetta, gone to ash with the data core. The mind link brushed him with her curiosity, and he sighed, letting the words spill. "I thought home was what I lost. Earth's fringes, my sister, the squad. Revenge was all I had left to chase it, but this," he gestured to the valley, the city, her. "This is where I stopped running." Kaelith turned to him, her eyes, dull now, but piercing, locking with his. "Home's not a place you find, Thane. It's where the fire doesn't burn you down." The link flared briefly, sharing a memory, her standing over her brother's grave, vowing to protect what remained. "I lost mine once. I won't again, not while we've got this." Her hand rested on his, the faint Pyra spark passing between them, warm and alive. Thane's throat tightened, her words hitting harder than he'd admit. "Yeah, well, don't get soft on me," he muttered, but his grip tightened on hers, steel and flesh anchoring them together. "Union's coming. Jara made that clear. We've got a fight ahead, and I'm not letting this place go down without swinging." Her faint smile grew, a spark of defiance. "Good, because I'm not done fighting either. Together?" "Together," he echoed, his voice low and solid, a promise carved in the moment. The valley stretched before them, a fragile new dawn built on their scars. Xythera wasn't his past, but it was his now, and he'd be damned if he let anyone take it. The wind carried the distant clang of sinew-steel at work, a rhythm of resilience echoing their own. The twilight deepened over Hearthbone Valley, Xythera's crimson sky settling into a velvet glow, unmarred by the fractures that once bled across it. Thane Korran and Kaelith stood on the cliff's edge, the wind weaving through the silence between them, carrying the faint clatter of Sinew-Steel Beasts rebuilding Ignisar below. Thane's battered Union jacket flapped against his frame, his useless biomechanical arm a dead weight at his side, but his green eyes held steady, fixed on the horizon. Kaelith's hand rested in his, the mind link a soft hum, a shared spark of Pyra, fragile but enduring, binding them to this scarred, stubborn world. A low rumble broke the calm, not from the valley, but above. Thane's head tilted, instincts honed by years in the void kicking in. A shimmer flickered against the sky, faint at first, then solidifying into a sleek Union probe, its hull glinting like a predator's eye. It hovered, scanning, then darted off, vanishing into the dust. Kaelith's grip tightened, the link flaring with her unease. "They're watching," she said, her voice low, edged with the steel of a survivor. Jara didn't waste time. Thane's jaw clenched, his rough voice cutting through the wind. "She's got that shard. Enough Pyra data to make the Union drool. They'll come hard." He glanced at the valley, at the Xytherans hauling stone with sinew-steel he'd tamed, and felt a surge of something fierce, protective, human, unyielding. "But they'll have to go through me first." Kaelith nodded, her auburn hair catching the last light. "Through us." The link paused, her resolve mirroring his, a quiet vow etched in the air. They turned back to Ignisar, the city's glow, a beacon of what they'd fought for, what they'd keep fighting for. Far beyond the valley, in the cold void of a Union stealth ship, Jara stood before a holographic console, her silver hair stark against her dark armor. The Pyra shard gleamed, in her hand, its red glow casting shadows across her sharp features. Her lips curled into a cold smile as she slotted it into the console, data streaming across the screen. Coordinates, energy readings, Thane's hack of the sinew-steel. Her plasma blade hung at her side, still humming faintly from the cavern's chaos, but her eyes burned with something deeper than duty. "Family paid him blood for this," she muttered, her personal edge to her ice-cold tone. Xythera's mind to claim. The hologram flickered, resolving into a shadowed figure, tall, cloaked in Union black, voice distorted by static. "Report. Agent Jara," it commanded, a presence that chilled even the void. She straightened, her smile sharpening. "Pyra's stronger than we thought, unstable but harnessable. The pilot, Thane Korran, he's the key. Controls the sinew-steel like they're his pets. Fused Union tech with their ritual. Xythera's ripe and vulnerable." She tapped the console, pulling up a scan of the healed sky. "They think they've won. They're wrong," the figure leaned forward, a glint of interest piercing the shadow. "And the refinery?" "Destroyed," Jara said, unflinching. "But this shard's enough. We can rebuild, weaponize it. Korran's a liability, too stubborn, too clever. He'll fight." A low chuckle crackled through the static. "Good. Let him. Prepare the fleet. Xythera will be ours. Pyra, the Beasts, the pilot, all of it." Jara nodded, her hand brushing the blade's hilt. "Understood, Commander." The hologram winked out, leaving her alone with the shard's glow. She stared at it, her smile fading into something colder. Vengeance, ambition, a hunger born of loss. "You burned my kin, Thane," she whispered. "Now I'll burn your world." Back on the cliff, Thane's gaze lingered on the sky, a prickle of unease rippling through the mind link. Kaelith felt it too, her eyes narrowing. "Trouble?" she asked, voice steady. "Always," he said, his rough tone laced with defiance. He squeezed her hand, the shared Pyra spark flaring briefly. "But we'll be ready." The valley stretched below, a fragile hope under a crimson sky, and a storm gathering beyond.